I got 2 ponds on this property, and this is the smaller one out of the 2. The big one is like 5 times larger than this one. And so I figured I could use this as a visual example of what I mean by pool number 3. And on my way over here, I took a look around, and the weeds are absolutely frying up. This Duracore stuff, I've always said that I've always used Duracore on my pastures. I've used Duracore, and every time I use Duracore, I'm just like, this is some wonderful stuff. In terms of herbicide, it's the easiest to use, and it completely fries up these weeds. It even kills the little trees. The little trees that I herbicided, they are just absolutely frying up. And so, give me 1 second. I got a blood drinking fly in here. Okay, there we go. And so this Duracore stuff, it's very easy to use. And granted that you're not like looking to get rid of giant trees or something. In terms of like the little weeds on your pasture, at least on my pastures, every time that I've used Duracore, it's just been a wonderful product. It completely fries up the weeds. It completely fries them up, and it's very easy to use. It's very easy to use. I just drive around in my truck with the broadcaster, and I just throw that stuff out, and it just gets rid of all of my weeds. It's completely frying up the weeds. I can actually, and especially the little trees. I had a bunch of little trees, little 2-3 foot trees, and a lot of them are mesquite trees, and it's completely frying them up too. It's completely just absolutely devastating those little trees. But it's leaving the grass completely alone. The grass is not damaged at all. And so it's a wonderful product. Wonderful product. And the grass, okay, so last month I put 1.5 tons of fertilizer on my grass, and it cost me $540 for a tonnage of fertilizer. It was like $543 for a tonnage of fertilizer, and I used 1.5 tons of fertilizer. And it's definitely made the grass green up. It's definitely improved the quality of the grass. I can visibly see that the grass is doing better, and the weeds are frying up. The weeds are being absolutely devastated, and the grass is doing better. And so that's very good for me. By next month, when it starts raining, if I just get one big rain, I will. But I'm already starting to see a major difference, and particularly, the weeds are absolutely they're cooking. They're just absolutely frying up, and it's getting rid of all of the little weeds, even the little trees. And so I have enough fertilizer on the field. I probably won't have to fertilize my grass again for probably a month and a half. And so I paid $543 for a tonnage of fertilizer. And I paid $100, and it was like $110 for a gallon of herbicide. I used 2 gallons of herbicide, and I used 1.5 tons of fertilizer, and I applicated at 200 pounds per acre. And so I got about it was something about 17-18 fluid ounces of Duracore per acre, something like that. 20 fluid ounces, just under 20 fluid ounces of Duracore per acre, and it's doing absolutely wonderful. I used 200 pounds of fertilizer, 220 pounds of fertilizer, 200 pounds of fertilizer per acre, something like that. And the Duracore is absolutely frying up the weeds, and it is and the fertilizer is making the grass grow. I can tell I got a lot of grass, and so I probably won't have to fertilize my grass for at least another I probably won't have to fertilize my grass until next month. Okay, the cattle can eat what I got, and they probably won't even be able to eat this. Okay, I got maybe 15 acres of grass that I fertilized and herbicided, 15-20 acres, and 15 acres that I fertilized, herbicided, 17 acres, something like that. And I only have 23 cattle out here. They're not going to be able to eat all of it. Okay, not even close. There's a lot of grass out here. And the whole thing about the grass situation is that I always supplement, not always, but almost effectively almost always, okay? Like 75 to 90% of the time, I supplement my grass with a little bit of grain. And the reason that I do that is because the grain is tax deductible, and I can make a positive return on it. It's like trading 50 cents for $1. Why would I not do it? All right, let's just think about that for a minute. Depending on the quality of my grass, when I take a look at my grass and I take a look at the how the animals are doing in terms of their diet, what does their manure consistency look like? How much weight are they putting on? Are they visibly fattening up? And things like that. And I can take a look at that, and granted that they are eating a majority of their diet in some kind of a decent quality grass. You cannot be feeding your animals a very low quality grass. I've always said that, you can't feed your animals a low quality grass and then expect it to work, okay? And then put on, and then feed them a little bit of grain and then expect them to put on, over 3 pounds a day. It's not going to work, okay? At that point, if you feed them a very low quality grass, well, number one, you got to be very careful, because if you're feeding them a very low quality grass, the feed values of the grass are going to be, effectively, they're going to be so low that your animal will not be able to eat as much food. They will have a difficult time digesting their feed, and so they will eat less food. And so when you, if you have them on a very low quality grass, they are going to eat less food because they cannot digest the food very easily. And so, and if you're gonna feed them grain, you have to be very careful, because especially if I use dry distilled grains very often as a supplement for grass. I don't hardly ever even use corn anymore. When I was growing winter wheat, I would use corn. When I was growing winter wheat, I would use corn, because winter wheat, the forage wheat, it's an annual wheat. It's an annual forage type grass, and the feed values, the protein values of that grass are astronomical. But the energy values are a little bit low, and so I would feed them a little bit of corn when I was feeding them that wheat, because it would reduce the amount of protein in their diet, but it would also increase the amount of energy. And so, depending on the type of grass that you have, that's the basis. In terms of the cattle feed that I utilize, that's the basis of my cattle feed. I feed a majority of my animals in grass, okay? And also things like soybean hay. Soybean hay is another good example of this. Soybean hay, the reason that I use corn to supplement soybean hay is because soybean hay usually has a lot of protein, but it's also usually the energy is a little bit low. So it may be 62% energy. The TDN may be 62%, and maybe usually 62 is about average for soybean hay, and the protein may be 14 or 15%. The protein may be 15, 16%. And so if it's 14, 15%, you don't want to feed them distilled grains, because that's going to increase the amount of protein in their diet. Even if you're getting that extra energy, it'll increase the amount of protein in their diet too high. And so I feed them corn as a supplement for the soybean hay, to get that energy level up and to bring the protein levels down a little bit, 1% or 2%. Maybe 0.5%, bring the protein down about 0.5%. Corn still has a little bit of protein in it. It's 8 or 9% protein usually. And the energy concentration is usually like 80% TDN. And so if you feed them a little bit of corn with some soybeans, usually that's one of the staple diets that I've used in the past. But right now, the amount of land that I have is just, I have so much land. I have such a large land area, and so that I might as well just grow grass and feed the animals distilled grains, okay? And just to put things in perspective, if we're going to take a look at and right now with because I have so much land area, and I'm not concerned about maximizing the output of every acre. When I was on 10.5 acres, I was more focused on maximizing everything that I could get out of 1 acre, because I only had 10.5 acres. But right now I got almost 375 acres. And I only have, right now I only have, I don't even have, hardly any cattle. I still need to, buy more cattle and et cetera, et cetera. I'm looking to, and I'll go over all this here in a minute. But I'm not looking to maximize the output of every acre right now. Even if the grass does not grow in optimally, even if I do not have optimal biomass accumulation, and also this will also, help me, I guess, not pollute the environment, and just, and I don't pollute the environment, but my whole, okay, so the thing about fertilizer is that using less fertilizer more frequently causes less waste. I'm not going to call it pollution. I'm going to call it waste. It causes less waste. If you put a bunch of fertilizer, and I've talked about fertilizer. A fertilizer for plants is like food for human beings, okay? And think about it like food. If you are a human being and, let's say you get one giant meal a day. If you get one giant meal a day and you are put at a buffet and you get one giant meal a day, you may eat as much as you can, but at the end of the day, that buffet is going to a majority of that buffet, effectively, if you're given a 3-4 meals worth of food, all at once, you may be able to, and you're only given that food once a day, you may be able to eat 2 or 3 meals worth of food in that one sitting, but there will still be one meal worth of food that goes in the trash, or 1 or 2 meals worth of food that go in the trash, right? That's a very reasonable analogy. And so now if we think about it like fertilizer, if I take a look at my plant material, right, I've always said that fertilizer, you can tell what's going on with your plant by looking at the plant material. All right, if you look at the plant material, the plants are metabolizing the fertilizer, and depending on what is happening, you can actually visibly observe what fertilizer the plant needs by taking a look at the plant material. And I've always said use broadleaf plants, because broadleaf plants, like this plant right here, this sagebrush right here, I got a bunch of sagebrush right here. I didn't herbicide near the water because my whole thing is you don't want to throw fertilizer into water, okay? That's one of the big problems, okay? That's a big issue. You don't want to throw fertilizer into water. It just causes a lot of problems. And so I didn't get anywhere near the ponds. And so I still got a lot of sagebrush over here, but it is much easier for me to diagnose this sagebrush than it is a tiny little piece of grass, than a little 5-inch piece of grass. It's much easier for me to diagnose this plant material for any visible signs of mineral deficiencies than it is a 5-inch piece of grass. Okay, it's much easier. And so I take my mineral analysis off the broadleaf plants. All right, and so and then if I go through and I check the plant material and I take a look at what does this plant need, and then I utilize fertilizer accordingly, that fertilizer does not just obliterate the environment. It gets metabolized by the plant material, and then the plant will physically grow, right? I've always said that plants are like a massive chemical reaction of carbon dioxide from the air. The physical structure of a plant, the carbon in a plant, a majority of its physical structure, which is carbon, is actually metabolized from the atmosphere. The plants will actually exchange water molecules for carbon dioxide molecules, and they will metabolize that carbon dioxide molecules with the other various minerals in the ground. And I've used the example for this is like calcium. The same calcium that is in the ground is the same calcium that is in your bones. The same nitrogen that is in the ground is the same nitrogen that is in your blood. The same phosphorus that's in your bones is the same phosphorus that's in the ground. All right, it's all the same thing, more or less. I'm not exactly sure about the exact, molecule compound, but that's also why, like, when you eat meat, when you eat vegetables, when you drink juice, the reason that you're able to obtain calories, the reason that you are able to obtain vitamins and minerals is because it's all the same thing. So when you ingest this material, you're actually metabolizing it. All right, and the same nitrogen that's in the ground, the same nitrogen that's in the rainwater is the same nitrogen that's in your blood. All right, the same calcium that's in the soil is the same calcium that's in your bones. And so plants do the same thing. All right, as a human being, we need to ingest plant material and meat to obtain calories, but plants need to metabolize the atmospheric carbon, the sunlight, and the minerals in the earth. And the way that they do that is to obtain them through the pores in their leaves, through the chloroplast in their leaves, and through the roots in the soil. Okay, when they attain all this stuff, they're able to metabolize all these things and create their physical structure. Okay, and so fertilizer just gives the plant food. It's just plant food. Granted that you're not doing something like throwing the fertilizer in the water, or you're not using some absurd amount of fertilizer. If you are using some absurd amount of fertilizer, yes, you are going to damage the environment. If you are throwing fertilizer into water, then yes, you are going to damage the environment. But using a diagnosed amount of fertilizer, using an amount of fertilizer that the plant can metabolize, and you're aware of, you're somewhat aware of how much fertilizer can this plant material metabolize and things like that. As long as you have somewhat of an understanding and a gauge of doing this, and the gauge that I use to do this is to observe the plant material. I observe the broadleaf plant material, and if there are signs of mineral deficiencies, then I diagnose that. All right, I diagnose that, and that's how I gauge it. If the plant material is showing signs of needing minerals, and I utilize those specific minerals in low dosages, effectively not super low, but effectively at when I utilize fertilizer, I probably put on about 40 or 50 pounds of nitrogen. Well, in terms of total units, I probably put on in one go, I probably put on about 65 to 75 units of fertilizer per acre. Okay, and when I say unit of fertilizer, I'm talking about NPK. So depending on, and if I'm going to apply straight nitrogen, it's usually only 50. So somewhere between 50 and 75 units of fertilizer per acre is what I utilize, okay? And so I don't use a lot. And, utilizing fertilizer at lower dosages, but more frequently, causes less waste, okay? It causes less waste, and the way that I gauge what kind of fertilizer to use is by visibly diagnosing the plant material, the broadleaf plant material. Okay, that's how I do it. And so but just to put things in perspective, I've been saying I'm gonna sell about 5 animals on a monthly basis, right? And I'm gonna go over it again because I feel like the whole thing about this is that when I go over it, because this whole thing, it's not confusing. It's not confusing, and I feel like when I go over it again, maybe it will clear things up, because none of this stuff is confusing, okay? And sometimes I feel like I get jumbled up, but none of it's confusing. And so I'm gonna go over the whole thing about the amount of the amount of money that I make and what am I gonna do with the money, and it's not confusing, okay? And so I feel like if I go over it again, I will clarify a lot of things. And so the basis of the commodity market is the idea that the commodity is worth its weight in gold. Okay, gold is effectively gold is like the commodity that everybody understands. If you have 1 gram of gold, that gram of gold is worth monetarily less money than 1,000 grams of gold than a kilogram. Okay, and it's the same way with the cattle business. When you have an animal that is 200 pounds, at 800 pounds, that animal will be worth more money. That's the basis, okay? That's the basis. If you have an animal that is 500 pounds, that animal will be worth more money at 800 pounds. There is just more weight. And so the whole idea of the commodity market is that the commodity market is that it's the asset is worth its weight in gold. Okay, worth its weight in gold is the old saying. But the big difference between gold and cattle are that cattle are a living creature. Okay, cattle are a living existence. They are a living creature, and so I am looking to sell 5 animals on a monthly basis, all right? And when I sell these 5 animals, I will still have 30 animals left over, okay? My 5 animals, when I sell them, I brought in my animals at an average weight of about 225 pounds. And I'll be selling them at probably about $850. They'll be going to market at about $850. And so I reasonably anticipate that when I take a look at it, if I buy them at 225 and I sell them at $850, for every 850 pound animal that I sell, I will be able to buy 2, maybe just a little bit over 2 animals, okay? And when I sell 5 animals, I will take, that money, I will still have 30 animals left over, even though I sold 5, right? And the whole idea of, and the whole thing that I've spoken about, a way to tell if somebody is doing okay with money, a way to tell if somebody's doing well with money is to look at their assets. That's how you tell, okay? What are the, do they have good assets? That's the big idea. And me, I may not have whatever. I may not have a Lamborghini, and my whole thing about buying a Phantom, it's like I could do it, but in all honesty, I also don't want to end up in a situation where I'm driving a Phantom and I'm also living in a trailer house. Okay, that's not where I'm looking to be in life. Okay, I got more important things to think about than buying a Phantom. All right, I am looking to buy more land, and I figured I would be buying land by about March or April of next year. And so, if I sell 5 animals, right, I'll effectively make enough money to buy about 11, okay? But let's say I use that 1 animal worth of money, that $1,400, and I go into whatever, right? I need to whatever, buy things for my business, okay? And so, I still have 30 animals left over. So I sold 5 out of 35. When I sold my 5, I sold them at 850 pounds. And when I bought them at about 225. So my 30 animals are still worth money. And right now, the whole idea is that I have my animals evenly distributed to effectively sell 5 animals on a monthly basis, okay? So, my 30 animals have produced me about 6 pennies on a monthly basis. And one of my big things right now is that if I sell all my animals at 800 pounds, I will still have a net positive equity stake of about 50%. Over the next 3 months, I will realistically sell 15 animals. And if I sell those 15 animals and I reinvest my money, I'll be selling 15 and buying 30, okay? So, that will increase the amount of equity that I have even more. It'll probably take my equity position over 70% by about January of next year, okay? And and I've talked about the solution to the problem, right? What am I going to do, and why am I going to do it? Because I'm looking to borrow money to buy more cattle. And the reason that I'm doing that, and I don't lose sleep over it, and over the I don't lose sleep over it, okay? I didn't sell my soul to the devil for it. At the end of the day, I didn't do some horrible malicious thing. I'm in the cattle business, and if we didn't have beef cattle, then we wouldn't have beef, okay? And so it is what it is. And my whole thing about the free market is, and I was talking about this yesterday. Why do I not believe in in communism? And it's like the whole thing with the soybean contracts. And what's ultimately going to end up happening is if China pushes money to Brazil to have Brazil produce a lot of soybeans, it's gonna increase the amount of soybean supply in the world. That's what's gonna happen, okay? And this is also why I don't believe in communism, because it's ultimately what's going to end up happening is that there's going to, the free market will effectively just end up, what will end up happening is if China pushes Brazil, pushes money towards Brazil and has them produce a lot more soybeans, then there's going to be an excess amount of soybeans. And the whole thing is if there's an excessive amount of soybeans, then the price is going to fall, and the profit margins on them aren't good to begin with. Okay, it's like $80 an acre. It's not fantastic. All right, I've read that the average bushels per acre is 56 or 60 bushels an acre for soybeans, and for 56 bushels an acre, at $80 an acre of profit, if the price of soybeans fall $1 a bushel, from 10 to 9, whatever it is, I don't know what the price. I'm not a crop grower, so I don't really know. I don't really know what's going on with the crop market, and I've been taking a look at this whole thing, and the whole thing about the commodity crop market is that apparently it's not even that bad. The whole thing about the entire economy right now is that things are kind of rough. It's not just for farmers, it's for everybody. So I mean, I don't know, it's not for everybody, right? I mean, but it's for a lot of people. Okay, it's not just for farmers. The whole U.S. economy is in a rough spot right now. The whole world economy is in a rough spot right now, ever since the whole pandemic situation. Okay, and so it's not like it's not like just isolated in farming. And the whole thing about it is that everybody does not win. Okay, a lot of people are failing because they're idiots. You made bad choices, and that's why you're failing. All right, you did not. A lot of times when you have someone who's doing horribly, the reason that they're doing horribly is not because they're a good person. Okay, let's be honest about it. All right, it's not because they're a good person. The reason, it's like if you're doing horribly, I mean, then everybody does not win. Okay, and I was reading papers on the commodity markets and the outlook for crops this year. And it's like some people are losing money, but some people are making money. Profit margins are not great. But let's be honest about it. The entire economy is in a rough spot. Okay, it's not just farming. And I'm not going to say the entire economy. And I know that this makes me sound like a prick. I didn't sell my soul to the devil for money. I do extremely well for myself. Okay, I'm not worried about it. I do very well for myself. Okay, I'm a first generation cattleman, and I do very well for myself. But it's not just for farmers. Okay, the entire economy is in a rough spot, and there is no easy solution to this, because the whole thing about it is that asset prices are very high. Okay, asset prices are high. Interest rates are high. If we, like right now, if we lower interest rates with the assets where they are right now, and the rich people start leveraging against their assets, I mean, that's going to push a lot of, that's going to, cause a lot of inflation problems. If we push down the value of assets, if the value of assets are left to fall, then interest rates are going to go, interest rates are going to go like borderline negative, zero negative. I mean, we're in a real rough spot. We're in a real rough spot. But here's the thing. I actually read, I was watching this thing on Warren Buffett. And Warren Buffett was like born in the Great Depression. He saw World War II. He saw the atomic bomb being made. And I was watching this whole thing, and I was like, like what we're going through right now, it's nothing. I was like watching this thing on Warren Buffett, and it was like, when he was a toddler, when he was a baby, he was born into the Great Depression, and then he saw World War II, and then he saw the atomic bomb being made. He saw the war against communism, right? The Korean War and the Vietnam War, and he saw all these things, and it's like, and it's like if you were born 80, 90 years ago, if you're like 80, 90 years old right now, and this is also the thing about boomers had it easy, and it's like I don't think that that's true. You know, it's like if you were born 80, 90 years ago, I mean, you would have been born into a world where it's like all of the money in the world would not have bought you an iPhone. I mean, you would have saw the Great Depression. You would have saw World War II. You would have saw Vietnam. You would have saw Korea. You would have saw the atomic bomb being made. You would have saw the global war on terror. You would have seen the great financial crisis. You would have seen all of this stuff, right? And and it's like, what we're going through right now is just a little bit of a hard spot. It's nothing major. There's nothing. It's not some world-ending catastrophe. Okay, it is what it is, and all right, a lot of people just gotta suck it up. All right, a lot of people just gotta suck it up. I was reading a lot of papers on different crop outlooks, and some people are losing money, some people are making money, but that's how it always is. It's not I don't know where I saw like this a thing, but I don't know where I saw this thing, but it was like people, it was like this thing. It was like people are losing like $400 an acre. I don't know where I saw that, but that's not true. That's not what's happening. People are not losing $350 an acre. Okay, people are not losing $350 an acre. People are not losing $400 an acre. I don't know where people are getting this information from, but I saw, I don't know why this stuff keeps popping up on my feed, but it's like the terrorists are ruining farmers, and that is not true. The terrorists are not ruining farmers. All right, if anything, if China legitimately goes and pushes a lot of money at Brazil and has them grow a bunch of soybeans, then there's going to end up being a massive stockpile of soybeans, and then Brazil's going to end up losing money. And the U.S. soybean market is still somewhat profitable. Okay. It is still somewhat profitable. The wheat market is somewhat profitable. Some people that are growing corn right now are losing money on the corn, but it's not some widespread farm catastrophe. It's not. Some people are losing money, okay, but that's the name of the game. You cannot have everybody win. Everybody does not win, okay? A lot of people who fail because they're an idiot. Okay? So from my understanding, it's not that bad. Okay, it's not that bad. There is not some massive farm crisis right now. It's not. It's not some horrendous thing, from my understanding. And the solution to low prices is low prices. If prices are genuinely too low, then the solution for low prices is low prices. If we give it some time, the market will correct itself. Okay, the market will correct itself given some time. And so, like, the solution for low prices is low prices, and the solution for high prices is high prices, okay? And so my whole thing about my business, I'm gonna sell 5. I'll make enough money to buy 10 or 11. I still have 30 left, and those 30 will have produced me about 6 pennies on a monthly basis. If I sell 5 and I buy 10, and I reinvest all that money into my business, even if I only keep the 35 animals that I have right now and I sell them at 800, I will end up with about 50% to 50% debt to equity, okay? But realistically, what's going to happen is I'm going to sell 5 and I'm going to buy 10, and I'm going to increase the amount of money that I've put into the business by reinvesting my profits. And when I do that, it will push my equity proportion higher. I realistically anticipate that by January of next year, my equity to debt ratio will be about 70% equity to 30% debt. And my solution to the problem is to take a loan and invest. I'm also looking to invest all of my money. I'm also looking to invest all of the profits, leverage against them, and leverage against my pool number 2, and also increase the amount of debt that I have on my balance sheet by leveraging for even more animals. But if I'm going to do that, I need to be putting a lot of money in the front end of the cattle herd. That's where I put all my money, in the small animals. And for me to do that, I need a better preconditioning space. So I'm looking to buy more land and build out a new preconditioning space. I'm looking for a loan for about $1.5 million to $2.5 million. With all of this, I reasonably anticipate that I can by about March or April of next year, I will have about 140, 150 cattle. And if I have 140 to 150 cattle, and that means that I'm selling them on a 7-month basis. I would be selling 20 cattle on a monthly basis, right? 140 divided by 7 is 20. And if I'm selling 20 with the commodity market where it is right now, I'd be making about $60,000 a month, and that's pool number 3. I would be making, my income may actually go over $100,000 by March or April of next year, and I will tell you what's happening. But that's why, because I reasonably anticipate that I will have about 140 cattle by about April of next year. Okay, I will have about 140 cattle by the April of next year, and if I have 140 cattle and I'm selling 20 on a monthly basis, that means, but all my animals are not going to be spread out evenly. I'd be selling probably 10 or 15. But if I sell 10 or 15 and I have 140, I still have 130 to 125 animals left over. So, but let's just keep it easy, because if we're going to talk about unrealized gains, and this is also what I mean, but I don't want to make it confusing. Let's just keep it easy, because either way, it's all the same thing. Let's just say I'm selling 20 animals on a monthly basis and I have 140 animals. If I sell 20 animals at 800 pounds, that would be about $55,000 that I would have as a check in my hand. But I would still have 120 animals left over. So for me to keep the amount of equity and the debt that I have at an equal proportion, I would have to leverage against my unrealized gains. And 120 animals will produce me, a lot. I'd have to invest that 55 grand, and I would also have to leverage against it. Okay, for me to legitimately keep the amount of equity and debt to at an equivalent ratio. I would have to keep it all at, I would have to leverage, I would have to invest it all, and then I would be looking to leverage against it. And then I would be looking to leverage against my unrealized gains, which would be the 120 animals that have gone up in value. 120 animals. I mean, I don't even know how many animals would that be. 120 animals. 5 produces 1. So we're 120 divided by 5 would be 24. So they'd be producing 24 pennies on a monthly basis. So I'd have to invest another 24 animals worth of money. And so, long story short, this thing is going to get pretty gnarly pretty fast. But even but I'm going for it. Even right now, let's talk about my balance sheet right now. I have if I just reinvest my earnings and grow my business, what we're talking about is me selling 5 animals on a monthly basis, buying 11, and then just leveraging against my balance sheet against the 6 that I've whatever. So I would have to sell 5 and buy 17 just to keep my balance sheet at an equal proportion. But if I sell 5 and I buy 17, and those 17 animals go into the front end of the herd, and I raise those 17 animals for 2 months, those 17 animals would have produced me more money. I may not have the money as a check in my hand, but I started off with a 200-pound animal, and now I got a 400-pound animal. I started off with a 250-pound animal, and now I have a 400-pound animal, right? Now I have, I started off with 17 225-pound animals, and 2 months later I have a 17 400-pound animals, right? Or let's say 1 or 2 of them die. I would still end up with 15. All right, let's say that I use $3,000. I would still end up with 15. Let's say that one animal dies and I use $1,500. I would still end up with 15 animals. I would, and those 15 animals would be producing me a monthly return. They would be producing me money. The money may not be a check in my hand, but the animals will get bigger, granted that I am doing my part in taking care of the animals, okay? And so even right now, I also have the equity of my herd. Like, if I legitimately needed money, and I call it cannibalizing the investment but if I legitimately needed money, like if I was legitimately in a situation where I needed money, I could sell my assets. All right? And that's also how you know that I'm not in any kind of financial struggle, because if I legitimately needed money, I could just sell my assets. All right? I'm not gambling, I'm not doing drugs, I don't have 5 girlfriends, I'm not leveraged to the eyeballs, no nothing. Okay? I'm just running my business. And, you can tell because I have assets. And if I legitimately needed money, if I was in a situation where I desperately needed money, I'd be selling my assets. But I'm not selling my assets. If anything, if I sell my assets, I will increase the amount of assets that I have, right? If anything, I'm thinking about growing my business. And so even right now, I got money put away, and I got money put away in my land too, and and I got all this whatever, it's about $500,000 put away. I got about $500,000 put away, something like that, and and I make a whatever, I make a $30,000, $35,000 on a monthly basis. I'm not concerned about it. The amount of money that I'm making is going upwards. All right. At $35,000 a month, and and $500,000 put away, I can effectively already. It's just I'm not worried about it. I'm not worried about it. The amount of money that I'm making is going to go up very quickly. And just to think about this in a logical sense, just so that I'm not just saying my money's going to go up very quickly, and then just I will give you a reasonable way to look at this. For me to run my business the way that I'm looking to run my business, I would realistically anticipate that I end up with about 140 animals by March or April of next year. Why do I anticipate that? Because 7 months down the line, I will have sold all the animals that I have. I will have reinvested that money. I will be at about well, if I took all the money over the next 7 months and I did not use any debt, actually, I'll probably end up with more than 100. Well, I'll probably end up with about 140, 150 animals, something like that. 140 animals, something like that, by about April of next year. And so if I, all of my animals that I have today will be going to market within 7 months. That's a reasonable way to look at it. All of the animals that I have today will be going to market within 7 months, okay? And I will be reinvesting all that money into my business. And when I reinvest money back into my business, I am also investing my profits, right? And so I will be growing my equity proportion. I will be growing my equity. The money that I put into pool number 1 will be going upwards, because not only will I be reinvesting my money, I will also be reinvesting profits. And so the amount of money in pool number 1 will go upwards. And I will probably end up with about 140 cattle. Something like that. I may end up with something between 140 and 200 cattle by March or April of next year. And so at 140 cattle, if I am selling 20 animals on a monthly basis, that would be about $55,000 that I'm making as a check in my hand. And I would still have another 120 animals, 120 animals left over. All right, let's just use conservative estimates. I would still have 120 animals left over. And those 120 animals, granted that I am doing my part, would be going up in value. All right. And so I may not have the money in my hand, but I am making that money, and I will be looking to leverage against that money as well. So we're realistically talking about me making about $80,000, $90,000 a month, maybe just over $100,000 a month by March of next year, April of next year. And I am going forward, okay? And that's the plan. If something changes along the way, I will tell you. But I've laid it out detail for detail, all right? I have these animals right now. Over the next 7 months, they're all going to market. And they will all go to market at a higher weight than they are today. And they will be commercially viable animals. I will be reinvesting the money that I make along the way, and I will be leveraging against my balance sheet. I will be leveraging against the unrealized gains as well. I am going for it. I will be looking to, invest about. I will be looking to invest all of my money and 80% against it as well. All right. I will be looking to take debt for about 80% of it as well. So I will be investing, a very large sum of money, substantially more, but ultimately it ends up being about 150%, because I also have living expenses. Okay. So I invest about 150% of what I make. I ultimately end up investing about 150% of what I make, 150%, something like that. But reasonably still, my living expenses are a fraction of what I make. And so, in terms of a monetary value, right now I probably make about $35,000 a month, something like that. What am I going to do with the money? Well, I will take all of the animals that I have right now will be going to market within 7 months, okay? And when I take them to market, I will make a profit, and I will be reinvesting all that money. That's my big goal. I will reinvest all that money, and if I reinvest all that money and I'm looking to keep myself at an 80% debt to equity ratio, I will have to increase the amount of debt that I have substantially. And I'm looking to redo my loans in January or February of next year. So, where do I think I will end up? By about March or April of next year, I believe that I will end up with about 140 cattle, okay? 140, 200 cattle, something like that. And if I have 140 cattle and I'm selling 20 at a time on a 7-month basis, that means for the 20 that I sell, I would be making about $55,000 a month, and that would still leave me with 120 cattle. All right? And this thing's going to get gnarly pretty fast, and if I legitimately end up in a situation where I am having a very difficult time at reinvesting all the money that I make, because we'd be talking about me investing, almost $200,000 a month, right? Even by April of next year, I'd have to invest almost $200,000 in a month. And my whole thing about getting the loans from the bank, what is my argument for getting a loan from the bank? Holding my assets for collateral, right? That's the big idea. Why would the bank lend me more money for cattle? Because I'm only leveraging against 80%. I'm not leveraging to the eyeballs, right? I have cattle, and I want them to give me loan money to buy another 80% more. And why would I do that? Because even if all of the animals that the bank has lent me money for dropped dead instantaneously, I could still pay the bank back with my own money, and I would still have 20% equity left over. That's the big argument. That's the deal that I'm presenting to the bank. And the bank ultimately wants to lend people money, because banks don't make money by holding on to people's money. Banks make money by collecting interest. And that, and I can also hold my real estate for leverage. I can present my cash flow, even if my business does not have a technical equity evaluation, because I'm not like selling shares of my business still produces cash flow, right? It still produces cash flow. It still produces me money. It still produces whatever, 30, 100, whatever, $35,000 a month, $120,000 a month, whatever it may be. It still produces that money. But my business also has cattle. I have cattle on my balance sheet, right? And so lend me money against my cattle, and here is proof that I make a lot of money. Well, that's a good argument, right? That's the big basis for what I am looking to talk to the bank about when I go looking for money, all right? And I'm gonna make a lot of money. I'm serious. It's gonna be a lot of money. It is going to be a lot of money. I wouldn't be surprised if my net worth goes over $50-75 million next year. And it's a matter of time. It's not a matter of if. It is a matter of when. Granted that I am still looking to do these things, and I feel like I have a moral obligation to do so. All right. I do very well for myself. And I'm not gonna say I just do very well for myself. I'm in the beef cattle business. I mean, people got to eat. Why would I underperform? If I underperform, that would be like me turning my back on God. That's how I feel like. That's what I feel. That's what I believe. If I underperformed, I would be turning my back on God. And so it is my moral obligation to keep working. I'm not selling my soul to the devil for money. I don't want anything from anybody. All right. And I'm gonna make a lot of money. I'm already making a lot of money. I am already making a lot of money. It's going to get pretty gnarly pretty fast though. And I will be selling about 5 animals on a monthly basis every month, starting here in about 2 or 3 weeks. And I will be reinvesting all that money, and I will be looking to leverage against my balance sheet as well. I make a lot of money.